Good evening and welcome, Warriors, to another edition of the R&R Sports Report. I'm your host, Randy Isbell. With me, as always, Robert Hagan. Robert, man, what's happening?
What's happening? Let's see. Finally got to do our first game. Oh, you had a few. Finally got to do my first baseball game. I decided to do that, some PA for Alicia and the Warriors, and had a blast this weekend doing that, and hanging out with Danner and Tatco and the whole group up there. Good group, and I don't know. I'm excited. I'm getting ready for bowling. We got state tournament coming up. Got some bowling trivia for you tonight. So
sweet, I'm ready for that. Okay, I got city tournament Friday and Sunday.
Yeah, and then nationals. Both of us get ready to leave for nationals pretty soon. I'm in May, but you're, I think, the week prior. Mid-April. So 'tis the season for some tournaments. We got to hit the road and head to Montana and do a couple. Denise and I were talking. We got to get a group of us to head over and do a couple of tournaments over with Bernie and the guys over in Montana.
I rolled 3 games today. I'm sore. Like some of these tournaments, I want to go do some of these LCOs and stuff that I used to do with Billy Kite.
Right.
Bowling more than 3 games at once. I don't know if my body could do it anymore. Just
I plan on watching your shot when you're down in Vegas bowling singles and doubles when there's 6 games happening.
Watch me fall on my face, most likely. Yeah, that's for darn sure. But no, absolutely lots going on. So we have LC baseball in full swing. We have a national champion who's a friend of the show. We'll talk about that. Ncaa Basketball tournament starting this weekend. Watching you scramble to get your brackets before our big bracket review was the funniest thing I've ever seen.
I've had them done. Thank you, Pat Ogden. That's all I got to say.
March Madness is in absolute full swing. There were some crazy finishes to basketball games last night. I know my dad is not watching our show right now because the Gonzaga men are starting right now. So there's 0 chance my dad is listening. NFL decided basketball has too much news for sure. So there's a couple news items, I guess.
Maybe a couple. Well, and I didn't even add one that I thought was funny.
That wasn't even news.
No.
All right. But first, the voice of the Warriors, we got him on finally. We had to make sure we did it when we were in studio because I don't think Danner could have figured out StreamYard. So
no chance.
Had to have him in person. Mr. Brian Danner, man. How's it going?
It's going all right. No chance with any stream stuff. No, that's not happening.
Well, you just said a minute ago that you thought it was going to knock you out. I don't see it knocking you out.
Oh, yeah. That's what's definitely going to drive me out of radio. Will be the technology side of it. For sure.
That's what's driving us in. I love doing this kind of stuff and being able to connect on Facebook. And who is rude?
My wife, I guess I'm upsetting my wife. I don't know. Who knows?
See, it's a young man's game. That technology side's a young man's game.
The sad thing is none of us are young.
I haven't been a young man a long time.
Aaron Rodgers getting paid. Russell Wilson, Holt here. Just Gonzaga's game is not started. Man, we have all sorts of people here today. We bring on legends. We had Denny Grubb. The last time we had a really popular show, Denny Grubb was on.
Right.
Now we have Brian Danner, and everything's blowing up. So we just got to continue to find all these legends to bring in here.
Well, it started with Gino. We had Gino on.
Yeah,
and then that one and Sean. Just lots of things going on. So Danny, yeah. Danner, yeah, there's Grubb.
So, Danner, you and I have obviously talked a lot about what you have coming up this weekend and trying to cover 3 different things at the same time. Tell the people what's happening this weekend.
Well, it's not easy. It's part of the whole deal when you have successful programs. Mm-hmm. These things come up. We've dealt with it before, and we have to deal with it again this year. The women are going to be in Texas coming up on Friday. The men will be in Helena on Friday. The baseball team's in Caldwell Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So we looked at trying to get a flight to Texas. Mm-hmm. We thought that might be a good place to go. And I hadn't been there before and do an opening round tournament only here because we hosted last year, right. Which if the NEIA gets their heads pulled out at some point, they'll bring it back to Lewiston because they know what they're doing here. And I'm hearing rumblings across the country that they don't really know what they're doing at some places, some locations, not throwing any names out. But I know that some places haven't done it before, so they don't really have a history. They don't have experience doing it. So we looked at Texas, and I talked with Coach Orlandi about what flight are you on. So we looked at it, and the price went up $400 in 24 hours. And we just didn't have the budget for that. Now, I talked to Coach Orlandi today, and apparently they had trouble again. Their flight for tomorrow got canceled. So they're scrambling to find another flight to Texas. My understanding is they're going to get down there. They're having trouble finding rental vehicles to get them to and from the venue, from the hotel. And then when they're done, they have to drive to Dallas. It's about 5 or 6 hours. I mean, where Plainview is not close to Dallas or Fort Worth. So they're going to have to bus and find a way to get there and then get back and hopefully travel to Sioux City, Iowa for the final site. The men are in Helena, made that trip a few times, 20 years. We went in and out of Montana. We were looking for a feed there. So what we did, we're getting a feed from Plainview, Texas. The Wayland Baptist University is hosting. They're going to provide some sort of feed for us. We're not quite sure what we're getting yet. I have to confirm things with them tomorrow. It's been a mad scramble that way. And then in Helena, I have connections there. I know people in Montana that can broadcast. Well, they've got a bunch of high school tournaments going on too. And in Montana, high school rules everything. It rules it all. When it comes to newspaper reporting, sports pages, I mean, you find every high school score in the state there. And you'll find a little blurb on the Frontier Conference, and you'll find some bigger stories on Montana State. But high school drives the bus. It moves the needle in Montana. So it's really important for them to cover those games too. So I'm not sure we can get a feed from the folks at Carroll. So I reached out to a guy in North Dakota at Jamestown. He's going to call the game for us on Friday night. If we win, if Lewis Clark State wins and Carroll loses, we got a pickle because I'm not sure where we go from there. But Carroll's hosting. They're at home. They're really good again. They've got a great team again. Shamrock Campbell's back. Johan Schlewakinen's back again with them. They've got a veteran team. They're well coached. I expect they'll win their game. One would think at home. So we're hoping, fingers crossed, that they do. And then we get a feed for that championship game for the men. I'm going to travel with baseball down to Caldwell. And we're going to do as much baseball as we can down there. I'm hoping that maybe some basketball interferes with that. I'd have no problem with taking a back seat, watching, listening to the games that way from Texas and from Montana, if that's the case. But we'll be down there. We'll call all the baseball that we can. It's been a great season so far for both basketball teams, the baseball team. I couldn't believe it's the best start in program history with a storied tradition here. But at 23-1, and that new poll comes out, tomorrow? So we'll see where the baseball team lands. I expect they probably will move up in that poll.
It's really tough because there's a lot of teams that are red hot. I was looking at that poll, and I follow NAIA ball, which I always laugh because they absolutely hate LC, and they always have to give them props because of how good the Warriors have been doing. But like Southeastern, I think, is off to like a 22-0 start themselves. Wow. So there's a couple like colleges out there that are absolutely red hot as well. But
I'll start watching it now. That preseason poll comes out in November. Yeah. So it's really based on what teams did the year before.
Right.
So I haven't really looked across the nation yet to really follow it. I will as we get going, especially this year where LC is going to host an opening round. It's going to become even more important and more interesting to see who lands where in that top 25. And then when the opening rounds open up, it'll be really interesting. And LC is going to host. So there's more interest, I think, nationally for me now. Normally, you're kind of watching the opening rounds from that point forward. You keep an eye on people all year, but I think once the postseason starts, you start looking at programs across the country and you start guessing who you think's got a good shot of coming to Lewiston. I think that'll start earlier this year. I think it might start next week. We'll start really watching that top 25 and seeing who's new, who's a repeat team. Tennessee Wesleyan, I know, is really good this year. Southeastern, I know, is really good this year. Faulkner, I'm sure, is good. Oklahoma City, I would assume, is good. I'd be interested to see what Central Methodist is like this year after their run last year. Georgia Gwinnett, I'm sure they're loaded again this year. But I really like this LC team. I like how they're built right now. I like how they're playing right now. I'm excited.
So how do you feel about, we talked a little bit about it a second ago, but how do you feel about the change in now Lewiston not having an automatic bid into this? And now they've got to play in. Yes, we are going to host one of the regionals, but how do you think that changes the players' mindset in that?
Well, you know where you're going to be that week in May, but you don't know if you're going to be here at the end of May. So I'm sure that changes their approach a little bit in terms of more pressure to win. You know you're going to host that opening round, but there's no guarantee you're going to advance beyond that. Mm-hmm. I would think there's probably a little bit more pressure on the team and the coaches to perform well. But from what I've seen so far, if they play to their potential, I think they'll be right in the mix. I don't see them being intimidated by anybody. I don't see anyone that on the board right now would appear to be, lights or head and shoulders better. In fact, I think a lot of them are probably pretty worried right now that this LC team is 23-1 right now, and they have even more incentive to win it all this year, whether it's the opening round or the World Series itself. I think that they're probably looking at that like, well, it's a motivated team now. It's difficult. I mean, the last several decades that the tournament's been here, the World Series, they've been the LC has been in a bit of a disadvantage. You're off 20 days, not playing anybody. And these teams that come in, they've fought their way in. They've had to play do or die games. They've had their backs against the wall. It's win or go home. They know what that's like at that point. And the LC teams have to wait. They scrimmage each other. I mean, all you can do is kind of simulate a game amongst yourselves, and they get tired of doing that. And I think this is going to be better for that. Once they get into that opening round scenario, they play games. They're all going to matter, every one of them, and you got to win them to get in. So I'm excited about it. I really am. I was excited about it years ago when former coach Jeremiah Robbins was talking to me about it. He said, I would just as soon play as to sit here for 3 weeks, taking BP and scrimmaging. I'd rather play a game and let the dice fall where they do.
And it works out even better, I think, especially over the last couple of years with the switching over to the Cascade Conference. And you talked about this on the Saturday broadcast. There's a lot of Cascade teams that are improving. And in a few years, I think the Cascade Conference will be a very good basketball or baseball conference. But right now, it's LC and everyone else. So when you look at it as far as last year goes, you're playing 20, 30 straight games against inferior opponents and then getting 20 days off. For LC, it was last year, it was their trip to Arizona was the last time they played like legit competition. And then you get thrown into the tournament with the other 9 best teams in the country. It's got to be difficult. Obviously, people that are not from LC are going to look at it otherwise. Like, oh, they just get a free ride into the tournament. But like you said, it goes both ways.
Well, you mentioned Gonzaga basketball earlier. They're tipping off tonight with St. Mary's in the West Coast Conference championship game. They play a grueling schedule early on, but you can't help who's in your conference. Right. I mean, there's nothing you can do about that. You got to go out and you just take care of business. You try to get better every game and do the best you can. And that's the approach at LC. It's always been the approach. It's more about the team than it is the opponent. And the basketball teams are the same way. They worry more about themselves than who they're playing. They want to break them down and find out what they do and try and take that away. No question about it. But I think in the end, they're more worried about their own teams than they are who their opponent is. Just working on getting better yourselves. And I mean, 19 national championships speak for themselves. They tend to do that well.
Right.
Looking right here, early standings from the NAIA just a few minutes ago, and we talked about a few of those teams, one of which Southeastern and the Fire, 23-0 right now, leading their conference. Oklahoma City 17-1, Shreveport out of LSU 19-2. What's the other one? Ottawa of Kansas 15-1. But the big one, like you were saying earlier just a minute ago, was Tennessee Wesleyan, also 20-1. So there's some good play out of these conferences, and I want your interpretation of this, because Randy likes to say this, and the more we think about it and the more we talk about it, LC is almost like the New England Patriots of the NAIA. Do you see that when you travel around with some of those?
Yes, everywhere we go, everywhere. If someone beats LC, a team that maybe has never done it or hasn't done it very often, they dogpile the mound. They rush the field. It's like they beat the New York Yankees in a World Series game. It's a regular season game, but it doesn't happen often for them. So yeah, I get that from teams all over the place, and not everybody. There are teams out there that have played LC before, and they're not intimidated. They go out and they play as hard as they can, and come what may. And if they win, they handle it like they've been there and done it before, and that's the approach you'd like to have. But you can certainly understand, if Lewis Clark State plays Bushnell this year and Bushnell gets a win over LC, those kids are going to celebrate. It's something they're going to remember the rest of their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that time we beat LC when they were ranked top 4 in the country, or maybe higher when they finally play. Eastern Oregon last year, we went over to LeGrand, the first game of that 4-game series. Elliot Marks, who grew up in Asotin, hits a home run in the bottom of the 8th inning, puts them ahead. They win the game, and they celebrated like they'd never won a game ever. And I get it. I understand that. I mean, when you look at Lewis Clark State, 19 national championships, all these players that get drafted, all these players that have played pro baseball, you're beating the best program in the NAIA for the last 30 years, the best program in the NAIA.
All right, let's switch over to basketball. We talked about it a little bit. What are your expectations of these two teams? Obviously, you've seen them both play the entire year long. The women's team, I think, surprised a lot of people with how well they gelled. Obviously, 5 new starters on that team. Men's team looked like they had a ton of depth early on in the year, some injuries and just things just not clicking, I think, the way a lot of us expected. It's been an up and down year, but it's a very talented team. What do you expect this weekend?
Well, I expect it's going to be competitive all weekend long. I think they're both so well coached. You've got Brian Orr, 500 wins. I mean, that's an amazing number, no matter where you're at. He does a great job with his teams every year. They're always prepared. They might get beat by somebody, but it's not because of a lack of preparation. Mm-hmm. It's not because they're not ready, not because they're scared. I expect they're going to be really competitive this weekend. They're going to play Mid-American Nazarene. That's a pretty good program out of Kansas. They won the national championship a few years ago. And then if they get by them, in all likelihood, they're going to play Wayland Baptist, who has the best nickname of any women's basketball team I've ever heard of. They're the Flying Queens. It's great.
Awesome. That's great.
And I saw them play years ago in Jackson, Tennessee. They had a girl named Hazel Taylor. She was from the Caribbean. I can't remember which island she was from. She was amazing. She was like 5'11", athletic. She might have been the player of the year in the NAIA that year, but she was really, really good. And I didn't know until we got there that their moniker, I don't know if you want to, is it wrong to say mascot? I don't think that's probably right. But their moniker, the Flying Queens, they had someone gave them an airplane. And that's how they jetted around back in the day. Mm-hmm. I expect they'll be really good. I think they're 31-3. They're really good. But I expect our girls will have as good a chance as anybody to advance to that final site in Sioux City. Mm-hmm. They have a certain confidence about them for a team that's so young. They don't panic in situations. Now, they didn't play well in their last game, that championship game in the Cascade Conference. Southern Oregon did. Southern Oregon looked legit good. That was as good a defensive team as I've seen in a long time. But I don't think that's going to really impact them. You certainly hope it doesn't. But I think they'll be really competitive. They've got a game changer in Khalil Stevenson. They've got other players that are really, really good. And the exciting thing about them is how young they are. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're really, really young. But I think they'll be just fine down there. I don't see them having the, wide-eyed and intimidated like that. I think it's going to be really good. For the men, I don't know if I've been around a team that's been through more adversity over the course of a season. I feel terrible for Kevin Baker. I mean, this is a guy that came in, was probably one of the favorites to be the player of the year in the conference, and he gets injured. And they've had COVID issues, and they've had different lineups seemingly all year long. They just haven't had a full roster, it seems like, all year. But when they went through that 4-game losing streak, I think everyone thought, oh no, it's not gonna go well. And they turned it around. They turned it around because they play great defense. And defense travels. Mm-hmm. And that's what you hope for when they head to Helena, is that defense shows up and it keeps them in a game, because they've got players out there that really know how to play. Khalil Stevenson is underrated. I think he's one of the more underrated players. I think he was underrated last year for LC. He led them in scoring in the national championship game. Khalil didn't bat an eye at the competition there. He was great. Nathan Fromm was really good at the national tournament last year. Silas Benyon was really good last year. Now, he played behind Demick Mitchell, who's one of the best players of all time here at LC, but that's a great guy to learn from. And I thought Silas grew a lot this year. They're young. I think Orion Courtney is a star in the making, but I think they'll be competitive there. I think they'll go into that environment. I don't think they'll be intimidated either. I think Austin Johnson's one of the better coaches in the NAIA. He's demonstrated that at not one program, but 2. I think they'll be all right. I think it's going to be competitive basketball, and I don't think I won't predict who will win the games, but I wouldn't be surprised if they both win 2 and move on.
Yeah, we will get to our predictions later on in the show since Robert did finally get a copy of his.
I did. I got it. I already loaded it up. Everything's ready to go on it.
So let's talk about you just for a second. I know you had places you wanted to get to, but just tell people your history, because obviously you've been with LC for a long time. But obviously we have the radio station here at the college. There's the sports media degree that I am getting, but I'm an older man compared to these kids that are half my age here. But for any of those college kids that are listening, how did you get into this career, and how did it flourish to what it is now?
My mom, simple as that. She got tired of seeing me around the house. I worked for the Idaho Department of Lands in Craigmont for a while, fought wildfire, worked some slash piles, did some burning in the fall, that kind of thing, made a little bit of money. And then one day she said, you gotta do something, get out, basically. And when I was in high school, there was, in the spring, I think it was speech or drama, I can't remember what it was, but they had a segment that you could go compete in called radio broadcasting. So I thought that would be really good. And I never was able to because I got chicken pox my senior year in high school. So I missed out on all of that. But there was still some interest there. And she brought that up again. Said, well, you talked about radio. What do you think? Oh, well, it still sounds good. Yeah, I think it'd be fun, a fun career. Never thinking sports at all. Just thinking, spin records. And, people don't know what that is nowadays. But back then you used to spin records. And
I got records around you.
Yeah, I see some on the wall. Yeah,
some behind Robert on
I feel like I'm in a museum right now, and that's all. I used to run those. But my dad went to high school with Mike Ridley. They graduated from high school together in Orfino. And so he had a relationship with him. My former sister-in-law was the news person at KOZE Radio. And so he set up an appointment for me to go talk to Mike. And so I talked to Mike, and he said, recommended I go to broadcast school. So I went to the American School of Broadcast in Spokane. It was a condensed program, about 6 months. Graduated from there and got a job initially with KLER Radio in Orfino with Jeff Jones. But the guy they had at KLER didn't want to move to Grangeville. So they moved me to Grangeville instead. And so I started in Grangeville on June 3rd of 1991. So I'm at 30 years in the business now. And so in Grangeville, they offered me the opportunity to do football games for the Bulldogs. And so I got together with Dave Williams, who was, he worked at the Sears store. He owned the Sears store, the catalog store back in the day. Again, listeners might not even know what that is, but he had the catalog store in town. They had a few things in shop, and then you could order things through them. And they would have them shipped and delivered. So Dave and I did football the first few years. It went pretty well. I almost quit because every week we would sit down on Monday morning and we would go over it with Mike Ripley. And he would tell you everything you did wrong during that broadcast every Monday. And I thought, I don't know if this is gonna be the thing for me. Well, we got through that first year and it went pretty well. And we slid into basketball. The district tournaments were at Warrior Gym. So we came down and we covered Grangeville, Prairie, Kamei, Clearwater Valley, Timberline, everybody. In the Central Idaho League then was big. Lapway they were 83, which is 2A now. Mm-hmm. And then we did the basketball games there, and he really seemed to like the way I called basketball games. I'd never done it before, but it kind of came natural. And so did that for 2 years. And then the third year rolled around, and Jay McCall was working at the station, KOZE, good friend of mine. And he had left KOZE, and they needed someone to do basketball. So Mike asked me if I would do it, and I said, sure. I was all excited. It's college basketball. Are you kidding me? So did that first season, which was the 1993 season. Been doing it ever since. And after that season was over, baseball, it rolls right into baseball. Every year does. You're doing 3 sports at that point. And he asked me if I would be interested in doing baseball. Well, at that time, LC was the powerhouse it is now. They hadn't won 19, but they'd won several. And I was intimidated by it. The legendary Ed Chef and, his program, I'd heard the stories. And so I said yes, and I should have paid the first year I did it. I didn't offer much. A lot of people probably still think I don't, but it just kind of kept going over the years. They keep asking me to come back. I work cheap. That's helpful, I suppose. But it's been really, really good. Been around some great coaches: George Pfeiffer, Mike DeVilbus, Brian Orr, Ed Sheff, Jeremiah Robbins, Austin Johnson, Brandon Rinta. Just really great people to be around. They've been really good to me. The administration's been really good to me. They've been really excellent to work with, open to any ideas that we have or what we want to do. It's been a great partnership for a long time. But that's it. My mom got me started.
There you go. Get your mom to push you.
Listen to your mom.
That's true. I mean, both of our parents listen to us all the time. Your mom, same with us. But I mean, we kind of got that same grassroots thing, going, starting off. Me. I mean, for me, it was Pat Holman. Listening to Pat Pat and Dennis do a couple of Clarkson games, and then traveling up, and then and harebrained idea for me. I'm like, I'm going to do baseball, and then brought you on with me, and it was just.
He said, and then all of a sudden, I go, me too.
And then here we go, and then it's football, but we'll do football, and then I've branched out. So I mean, it's kind of the same thing. But for me, you can't say LCSC without saying Brian Danner in there. You've got no. I'm being 100% because I remember when I was talking with I worked with Kelsey and Ncaa up there in the box there Saturday and Sunday, and I told him, I said, I remember the memories of Ed Sheffield and all of this, as I remember right field line or left field line were just like 4-row bleachers, and they were wood. That was it. And the fences out in left field were not that high. But this was also like the last of the end of the 80s, early 90s, just before my grandfather died. And so that was my memories of coming here. And it was still wooden benches behind the grandstand. And that's what it was. And, and you get these memories of hearing that. And we talked about, they had no clue. And I brought up the old gymnasium. And I remember when it used to be a parking lot, right, where we were at. And so there's just a lot of those memories. And that has been, even with you can't turn on KOZEs with any Warrior game without hearing your voice and know, there we go. I know that guy. I know he's going to call a heck of a game, and I'm excited, which it was. I mean, just to listen, in the 90s when I was doing other things, with work. And that was, you say Ed Jeff, you say Denny Grubb, you also say Brian Danner in that. So
usually only once a game, at the beginning and at the end. Twice. Yeah. It's not about me. It's about those guys on the field. Mm-hmm. That's the whole point. You're just,
as Denny Grubb says on the post, there's no Ian Danner, but there isn't Brian.
There is, but and that's the thing.
Paul says the same thing.
And that's the thing. I think what is intriguing for me is it's almost like a story. You're telling me a story, and that's the best part about it. And you hear that now with, with our stat man, Denny Grubb, sending us stuff all the time. Mm-hmm. And even Mike Tacko, filling in, working the other day. I mean, it's how you tell the story. And that's the thing with you guys is it's that story you just dive into right away.
Well, we're fortunate that we have so many people that have been doing it for so long. Mm-hmm. I mean, Mike and I have been together a long time. We started doing games years and years ago. And of course, Denny's been doing it longer than either of us. I mean, Denny started when Ed Sheff started. That's how long Denny's been involved. But as far as all the statistics, things like that, I mean, the broadcast sounds good because Denny Grubb provides us with information. I appreciate you saying that about stories, but they're the stories of that season, that team. Generally, you try to get to know people, and try to pass that personal experience on to other people. But Mike is really good at it. He's been at it a long time. Denny's great. He's the best. I mean, the best around. Jay McCall, I mean, that's the guy I grew up listening to. Gary Ball was really good too, and that's a name you guys would never know. But Gary Ball did games back in the day, and he was unbelievable. And that's who I really wanted to be like growing up when I started doing it. If I can get anywhere near as good as Gary Ball at calling a basketball game, you've done something. And I'm still working on that. I don't think I'm there yet. I think Gary's the best I've ever heard. And then Jay, all the years of listening to Jay, and hopefully he's feeling good, and we want to get him back in the booth at some point. But he's been a great mentor to me. He has great stories. That guy has more history than I do in broadcasting. So when we get together, it's kind of nerdy. We talk about radio stories and horror stories and things that have gone wrong, and then the great games that we've seen, the great games that we've called, sometimes together. It's been great. Yeah, really good.
Do you, and doing this so many times, and I know Randy and I have our own stories too. What is one of your favorite memories that you've gained, basketball or baseball? Is there one that sticks out that is by far, hands down, the best game that you've ever called or been a part of?
Well, that Faulkner World Series game where they hit 11 home runs, that one stands out. That was an amazing game because it was back and forth the entire time. I mean, you think someone was taking control and the other team would come back. That's probably the most memorable, and it's fairly recent too. I mean, that didn't happen that long ago. But yeah, that's probably the one that stands out the most. There's so many anymore, and I'm getting so old I can't remember them all. I mean, there's been some good ones. The other day we were talking about buzzer beaters because the men lost on that buzzer beater to Southern Oregon, and I started thinking about it, and I think I rattled off like 7 that I could remember, and I didn't realize I could remember them still. But yeah, a lot of good ones. The other one that stands out wasn't an LC win either. It was at Warrior Gym. It was when the women were ranked number 1 in the country. They were undefeated. They're looking at a number 1 seed in Jackson, Tennessee at the 32-team tournament. And Montana Western came to town, and a girl named Allison Burlingame hit a half-court shot at the buzzer to win it. And so I'm calling that game, too, for the station in Dillon, Montana. And when you feed a game, you want to be as impartial as you can, even though you're at the home venue. I mean, we have people all around us in Warrior Gym, packed in there. And so this girl hits this shot from half court, and I am just yelling because it's loud. I'm like, it's good! And these people are staring at me like, what are you doing? You lost your mind. You know who pays your check? So that was a memorable one when Western beat Lewis Clark State, and it was their first loss of the year. And they stormed the floor, and they should have. That was a great win for them.
Very, very cool. All right, we want to have a little bit of fun with you. I was warning you before we got going, but we want you to be our guest judge here real quick for our sports-related draft.
We're jumping that far
We're
ahead.
jumping.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Get anybody into these
I didn't
things.
realize we were jumping that far ahead. Okay.
Make it happen. He knows his basketball stuff. So Robert is on a 2-week winning streak after snapping my 5-week winning streak. Kevin Nolet even apologized to me for his terrible judging during the show. But Robert did win last week. I don't remember what last
I'm
week
winning
was.
again this week.
By the way, I love the fact that we did best NCAA conference tournament moments, and then one topped them all yesterday with the Chattanooga game.
Yeah, it was a great game. I watched it.
I was like, well, why didn't we do that this week? It would have been on our thing.
Yeah, dude, he hit that shot, played for Kansas. He was a transfer from Kansas. His name is Jean-Baptiste.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
crazy,
amazing shot.
All right, what we are going to do? It's your turn.
It is my turn.
Go for it.
All right, so this week we're getting ready to go and hit all these the different stadiums and all that and basketball venues, and so that's what and Final Four and March Madness, everything's starting off, and so I decided, okay, we're gonna figure out where is the best place, what is the best venue to play in. So what happens is we each draft back and forth. I picked the topic this week, so Randy gets the first pick. And so, Randy, your first pick with the best college basketball venue.
We say this every week. Whoever makes up the draft always is in a bit of a disadvantage because there's always that one easy one. And I have to take the easy one. It's Cameron Indoor Stadium. It's Duke. Which stadium just had the highest prices ever? I mean, yes, part of it's Coach K, but also Coach K built Cameron Indoor Stadium, and that's part of the mystique around it and how the Cameron crazies and how insane it gets in there. And the funny thing is, we're talking about college basketball venues, but it's not a venue unless you have the great crowd there. And whether you like Duke or you hate Duke, that place is nuts every time they have a home game. So that's my first pick.
So I'm going to lean a little bit different because this guy made this place too. So you got to give me Assembly Hall, Indiana, Bobby Knight. he made that stadium.
He made that stadium minus the one chair he broke and then threw it
across the place. But that place, if you ever looked inside, and I got one of the pictures, and we'll post it tomorrow after we get our winner, which will be me. But how that arena sets up, it is so steep up on the two back sides on the court. And I feel like that's one of those ones that you lean over, you might fall into the floor, but they just stack them to the rafters in there. So, I mean, I think you and I were on the same idea of two major coaches bringing that high intensity at two different basketball players.
How crazy it'll get. I almost, with my second pick, I almost went just with design because I like the Butler. I don't even know what that stadium's called, but they've had several like March Madness tournaments there. And the windows and stuff, and it looks really cool. But I went away with that. Had to go with tradition again, and again with the crazy crowd that's always there. Allen Fieldhouse, Kansas. There's nothing else to do in Kansas but pack this place up. So it's my second pick for easy.
Well, for me, it has to go back to watching some of the Final Fours and some of the older tournaments. And I love Denny Grubbs, the old Warrior Gym. That place was nuts to watch a game into. But for me, I'm gonna go Big O. Let's go to the Carrier Dome. Let's go to Syracuse. Some of those big games in the late '80s, early '90s, those teams that came out of there. It's just when the light hit just right on top of that dome, it just lit everything up on that floor, and it just almost illuminated to the point of feeling like it's risen kind of feeling at that place. So that's why I went there. So my second pick was the Carrier Dome for Syracuse.
All right, last one. I stuck with my theme, crazy crowd. It's a moment when you're able to go to a game like this. There's so many people around here that are like, oh, I got tickets to a game in 2 years. That's the Kennel for Gonzaga. It is completely nuts there that it takes so long to finally get a ticket at that place. It's so difficult, and because it's so small and compact and loud and crazy, that's a great college basketball atmosphere, and it's because it's so small that it works out really well.
I like that pick. It's a good one. And one of our friends, John Hansford, has season tickets now, but he was supposed to call me in this year, and never happened that I got a game, but it sucks. But I'm going with the granddaddy of them all now, and I'm taking. And yes, you're gonna argue.
I am.
You're gonna argue because no, it's a professional place. No, St. John's plays there. So
did you have to look that up?
No, I knew that. Come on, Madison Square Garden has to be in that discussion. Now, yes, you're gonna pack it. What is it? 45,000 in that place, something like
St.
that.
John's place, they get 5,000.
Well, right, but I mean,
nobody cares.
It's not the same teams as it was years ago, but the environment to walk into to say, okay, I'm in the granddaddy place, and go walking into Madison Square Garden where Patrick Ewing played, professional. Well, I'm just saying, but some of those other ones, I mean, it's just a big place. So, all right, so that's what it is. So Randy took Cameron Indoor Stadium, home of Duke, Allen Fieldhouse, home of the Kansas City Jayhawks, and the Kendall, Gonzaga. And then I took Assembly Hall, home of the Indiana Hoosiers, the Carrier Dome, Syracuse, and Madison Square Garden. So
home of the Big East tournament.
Home of the Big East tournament. That's about right.
St. John's. All right, Ryan, it's up to you.
Randy.
There you go.
To me, that was pretty simple. I liked your Butler reference though. I love that gym.
I can't remember. I'm blanking on what it's called. I remember looking it up, but God, that place is. Every time they have a tournament there, it's really.
It's like a field house, isn't it? Isn't it something?
Basically, yeah.
I think was it Canseco Field House back in the day, or maybe they renamed it that lately. I don't know. That's where they filmed Hoosiers, so that one's pretty big. But I think you hit it on the head. Cameron Indoor,
Hinkle Fieldhouse.
Hinkle Fieldhouse, that's it. But I think Duke is one of the best ones. I think you followed up with the Candle at the end too. That one was right there, and Kansas has all that history and tradition. I liked Roberts. They were good. No Kibbe Dome in there?
Yeah, I've been to a few games there, so I'm going to expand this really quick. So there is the few places, but There's a lot of them that we could easily thrown in there. I mean, you could add so many different places.
I asked this before we let you go. Are you a fan of the Final Fours being played in such a giant arena?
I get it. I get it from a television standpoint, I suppose. No, I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care for it. But once the game starts and you watch it on television, I think it'd be a different experience there live because it's so vast. But as far as watching it on TV, I think once they zoom in and all you're getting is that floor, you're getting shots of the crowd. I think you forget that it's in a huge venue.
I honestly, I think it might. I mean, I haven't been there for it, but it might take away from the sound because, like, I've been. I mean, to go into a wrestling analogy, but I have been to just Spokane Arena where they'll do a house show or a SmackDown or something, and they fill that up, and that small arena gets really loud because everyone's jam packed. I've also been to WrestleMania 19, which was in Safeco Field when it was like the very first year Safeco Field was a thing, and big open area. It was very loud in there, but the sound kind of floats away, and I wonder if that's the same place with a basketball game. You know, in a giant football arena. I was just up covering high school basketball up at Spokane Arena for the championship games last weekend. That place half full because they had the gym or the arena cut in half, and the championship game was on one side, just half full. I couldn't hear anything in there because you get them so jam packed in there, which is again why I think the kennel is so great.
Well, and we could actually, if you really want to add to it, how about we just say P1FC Activity Center, especially around Golden Throne time. Man, that place.
When Golden Throne happens,
oh my Lord, that is loud. I can't even think what I'm doing. Yeah, so it's crazy.
Danny Grubb is right though. Warrior Gym back in the day, that place got loud for sure.
Have you seen the new U of I stadium yet?
I've seen it from the outside. I haven't been in it. I'm not lucky like you, Randy. Nobody lets me broadcast in there.
It's very, very cool in there. It's not the best as far. I don't think it's going to bring the best atmosphere, but Idaho has a ways to go before they care about, I think, the atmosphere as far as like getting the noise and stuff up. But it looks really nice in there for sure.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna let him go because he had other things he had to do, and I know we went longer than expected, but the man can talk.
He's a storyteller. I was saying,
you're in control of that mic. Turn it off.
No, absolutely not. You're making my job a lot easier filling up with this 2-hour time slot. But Brian Danner, thank you so much for coming in. We've been wanting to get you on for a long time, but again, we wanted to make sure we could get it in studio. And during the winter break, we were online, and I knew Danner wasn't going to be able to do that at all.
You know me well. Yeah, that's
we
probably
talked about it a lot. But I want to also on the air thank Danner for all the opportunities he's been giving me this year. He and McVay both, and being able to call these high school games and a couple of the college games as well. So I very much appreciate it.
Well, we're glad to have you in there. You're doing a good job for us, and we look forward to more of it. We work with the high school now too, and they've worked with you. I think that's good. One of the things that we're really trying to do, and before I'll get out of here, is I'm not going to do this forever. Technology is probably going to push me out the door at some point, or health at some point. To have another generation of broadcasters is important. It's important to me. Now, I don't know if it's important to anybody else, but it's important to me. It's important to Lee McVay and our radio group to have people that will step in and do it and want to do it and want to do it the right way. And I don't know if we do it the right way every time, but we try to. So just having another generation is important to us. And so if I can help you anytime, let me know. I'll come back anytime you want.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, man.
Sure.
Brian Danner, the voice of the Warriors. We're going to let him get out of here. He's going to have a busy weekend covering baseball and hopefully watching some basketball both Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, you can also listen to Randy. Randy talked about it. He is going to be calling the game this weekend. Lewis and Clarkston here at LCSC. I'll be working in the booth, but doing the scoreboard and all that. But
Harrisfield, noon on Saturday. Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, buddy. And so it'll be a great atmosphere to come out and watch a game. And I don't think they're charging at the gate to come in. I don't know. I haven't heard. But it's going to be fun. So make sure you come. You talked about it a second ago, and I wanted to bring it up. And that one I think it's Monday Night Raw is going to be back in Seattle. Are we road tripping
to Seattle? That's too far for Raw. Raw's so long.
I think it's. I want to say it's in
Hours of-
September, so I will have to go back in the schedule because Denise and I were talking about it. So
I got to save up because Haley and I are pretty sure that this Jets Packers game is going to be that London game that Green Bay has to host. So we got to save up for that trip. We were just trying to save up for Lambeau, but now
how's
might
that?
have
Gonna
to save up for a bit longer trip once the schedule finally comes out. Absolutely love the Danner stuff.
Always.
He's so great, and obviously thanks to Grubb and Tatco for all the help as well over this last year or so. Again, being able to follow Tatco on Sunday and listening to his broadcast first was a nice tuner to get myself in the right mindset of what I needed to do. And it was nice of Denny to go, yeah, he didn't screw up. So I'll take that as a win.
So the one that I wonder about, because Mike sometimes jumps in over with SWX. I wonder if they hear what Denny's saying over in the SWX box when
Danner's pretty quiet. I think if Taco was on the radio and SWX was going on, you could hear Taco. Taco, especially during a home run, even with the door shut, we could hear him when we're doing the scoreboard stuff.
Right.
So.
Well, listen, how about this weekend? That was crazy. Matt James, 3 big home runs, pitching, just phenomenal. Great.
3 runs total on Sunday for both games. 2 of them by Matt James' home runs. It was great. It made it for a very easy call because there just wasn't a lot. The innings were very long.
No runs on just 1 base hit.
Yeah,
That's how it felt like. Yeah.
It was just crazy. Speaking of this last weekend, I did bring it up briefly, but very busy weekend around the area for high school basketball as it ended up. You had Idaho boys, you had Washington girls and boys all finishing up in the states of Washington and Idaho. Luckily, now we kind of have this week breather before Saturday. Lewis and Clark kicks off baseball season, and then we go right into that. What a fantastic! I watched more NFHS this last weekend than I have all year, and I watched a lot of NFHS stuff.
That's why I finally just started keeping my account through the year. I used to delete it after the regional play, and it's not, and it's nice. So we go back. That was the first thing you said to me. You got to go back. There was a Saturday that you told me that you got to go back and watch this game.
Yeah, the Colton boys game.
And it's just like, it's nuts to see where some of this talent is. But this is where we're seeing some of this stuff go, is everything's going to get recorded. But I don't know. Some of the people that were calling the games left a little bit to be desired.
I'm not at anywhere near the level of Danner or anything like that. But the guy that was calling the Lapway tournament absolutely drove me nuts. I don't understand why a slam dunk gives a kid a chicken wing. I still don't. He said it so many times because obviously Lapway's fantastic and they get so many dunks. But every time they dunk, get that kid a chicken wing. Why? Why are we giving him a chicken wing for a slam dunk? I don't understand it. I still don't know. Is that a Southern Idaho thing?
It must be a Southern Idaho thing. It's just kind of weird. But looking at what you and I have done with calling games over the last 8 years, 7 years. I've been 7. I've been 7 now.
5 or 6.
Just some of the characters we meet that do the announcing and do games. Jeff Place got hired to do. He did a couple of the NFHS games out of the 2A out of Yakima this last week, and I was watching the West Valley girls were playing, and he had the call, so it was kind of nice to hear that familiar voice doing that game. And but he's kind of the same way. He's such a stat man like you and Denny that it's just crazy, and he brings up those things. And he covers Prosser, he covers Yakima, he covers all of that area. So he just, even for football season, he flips a coin that day to see which game he's going to go do. So
we were saying obviously there were some bad play-by-play people. I'll give a shout out to Luke Kilgore, the WSU guy. He was up there doing the 2B tournament for both the boys and the girls, and was pushing back and forth. He's very, very good for as young as he is. He's very personable, especially when he was doing his post-game interviews and stuff. So I ended up following him on Twitter. He's going to be very, very good.
Yeah, that's what we need. We need some of the younger ones coming in. So,
but just to list it off real quick, your Idaho boys, state champions, 5A was Waihi. We talked about them last week about being this up and coming team. I didn't realize how many transfers they actually got. It was like a little college. Like listening to one of the broadcasts, like I figured it was a newer school, so some people moved. They were getting transfers from out of state just to come to the school to play basketball. Right. So this is like the first like big basketball school in Idaho that is just built for this basketball.
And we thought Lake City was going to be a big push in that one.
God, they not only lose in the opening round, they lose in the
Right, they were out after, yeah. So I mean, it was a little rough watching that one over the weekend.
4A champion was Hillcrest. Moscow loses to Bishop Kelly in the consolation finals in that tournament. 3A was Kimberly. 2A was Melba beating St. Mary's, who was the defending champions, made it to the finals again this year, fell just one game short. Your 1A D2 champion was Rockland. Kendrick around the area lost to North Gem in the consolation final as well. They beat Timberline in that loser out game right before that, but Lapway. 1A D1, undefeated, dominated all the way through. Just the fact that their last two games in the tournament were Logos and Kamiai, two White Pine League teams who would have been state champions if it wasn't for Lapway being in that division.
100%.
Amazing.
36 games in a row. I mean, Coach Zach Eastman's got these guys playing quite well, but 36 games in a row without a loss. I mean, that's just crazy to think about, on the season. So hats off to that whole community. I mean, they played well.
Washington girls, your 4A champion was Woodinville, your 3A champion Garfield, 2A champion was Ellensburg, your 1A champion Linden Christian, who beat Nooksack Valley 57-56 in overtime. I need to go back and watch that game because it sounds like it was great. Your 2B champion was Warden. They defeated Colfax 70-55. That second quarter of that game, that was the game I went up and covered for the Tribune on Saturday. 22-0 run for Warden to start the second quarter. Just insane.
Well, and those Matson girls were pretty darn good. Yeah. And Dad's their coach. And I listened to SWX was covering it, so I was watching it while I was up there because I harassed you. I'm like, where are you at? I can't see it. But
I was getting almost ran over by some of the girls running into the table.
I finally saw a couple times when they got close to it. But yeah, both those Matson girls, one's a senior, the other was a sophomore.
Sophomore. The senior's really good. Sophomore's going to be really good.
And they played quite well. But I think you made a great observation about the girl from Colfax. It's the freshman. Just the lights might have been a little too bright on her.
I don't want to throw that on somebody like that. And obviously, I've never talked to her, but watching her first two rounds on NFHS and seeing how dominant she was inside, you can just being there live. I don't know because obviously now I can see her up close and see how she's reacting compared to just on the screen. But you could kind of tell she'd miss a shot and she was lost. And I mean, give credit to Warden. Their defenders boxed her out but way better than the other teams were able to do. Like that was their game plan, was keep at least two people around her. So anytime a shot's up, she has no chance to get to the hoop. She's going to be fantastic though. 6'2" freshman. That first game, she had 24 points and 16 rebounds or something. She's going to be really, really good. Your 1B champion was Mount Vernon Christian. Garpal defeated Colton 28-22 in the third place game. Garpal won. They did not score in the third quarter. That was a rough game for both teams. On the boys' side, your 4A champion was Curtis, 3A champion Auburn. Your 2A champion was Linden, who did defeat Pullman 51-34. Great run by the Greyhounds.
Hey, yeah, I watched every one of their games, and they came out really, really well. Knocked off North Kitsap on Friday to get themselves, who was the defending champion, because that, they didn't play last year, and so it was 2020, my last year covering when Clarkson played North Kitsap in the championship game, and I happened to be over at Yakima calling that game, and it was so they're still considered the defending champion. But North Kitsap looked really good, and Pullman just outplayed them. But then all of a sudden, they're on Saturday, they just couldn't get anything to fall their way, and Linden just kept the foot on the floor and went. So hats off though to Miss Brantner and Rick Smith, the whole crew and team up there. They're going to have another good solid year in the GSL. So look for them to be back at least playing for a district championship again.
Your 1A champion, Linden Christian, not to be confused with Linden, because a 2A champion.
Right.
The 2B champion was Liberty, and the 1B champion was Cusick. I actually watched that Cusick win. That was the game that was going on before my game that I was covering. That crowd was nuts. The Cusick crowd was nuts.
You mean you got up there that fast?
Yeah.
Man, dude.
Well, they were also behind. They were delayed.
Oh, I was to say, I was like, as soon as we were done with baseball, man, you were flying out of here. And I'm like, how are you going to make it?
In the car. It was. They were probably a half hour behind. They had a crazy light show and stuff before the girls took the floor, and I know they did it for every game, but weird. It was very cool, but it was just like smokestacks and stuff.
Right.
I was like, what the heck? And my favorite, like this whole thing, the whole light show was like, oh, it's going to be an NBA game, or it's like a WWE event, and all this nuts. And then both teams literally just walked out.
Yeah.
Nothing. They weren't pumped or nothing. They're just head down. We're going to do our best to stay focused.
Smaller schools.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if it was a 5A Idaho or a 4A Washington, I bet you'd been a totally different environment.
Yeah, maybe. All right, let's get into our next topic. I'm going to let you decide, sir, because we've been bouncing around because I wanted to make Brian Danner be what?
No,
you had a weird look on your face. I don't know, like you saw something, but
I have a radio face. Remember, I have a face for radio. That's what everybody tells me.
It's 100% me too. It was why we stream with a camera. I don't understand, and it was my decision. But I know we're bouncing around. We did our sports-related draft already.
Great.
Got the win. The easiest win that we've ever had. I mean, not even to mention that you picked only 2 college stadiums.
Listen, whatever.
That's true. Sorry.
No,
all right, but do we want to go our brackets or do we want to do NFL?
Well, I don't know. I think if we get NFL, we're going to lose. I think maybe we should think about our brackets really quick because we got to talk some NAIA stuff with.
All right, let's get into the brackets. We will finish off with football because who knows how that could take us a
that could be ugly
if we get going. Do you want to go women or men?
Well, let's see. I think I have the women's one up here.
Right,
I have the women's
bracket. For the women, let's talk. Obviously, LC first. They are in the Plainview, Texas bracket.
Right.
As Danner said, they are the 6th seed. They're taking on the 11th seed Mid-America Nazarene. They're also in the bracket with the 3 seed Wayland Baptist and the 14 seed Our Lady of the Lake. Expectations for the women?
I think they get through the first one, and I think they get by Wayland too. I have got them moving on, and I'm like Danner. I got LC, and I think they're strong enough to make that push. I can see them easily making it to the final where I have them. I think I have them all the way to the final 8.
Do you agree that there's top-notch security at LC? Questioned by Danny Howard earlier.
There's top-notch security?
Yeah.
I don't know. They let me in, so I don't think Danny's doing his job.
I don't know. That's a knock against Danny.
Sure. Danny's a friend of the show. Yeah. If those of you guys know, Danny likes to come when he was working night shift. He'd come and open up the office next behind us, and he'd pop his head in.
Promised donuts.
I know
for months.
No donuts, and I'm going to see him again on Sunday. So, well, maybe. So
I agree with you though. I do think LC will get out of their bracket. Let's see. How do we want to do this? Let's just do our Elite 8.
Okay.
I was going to do who gets out of each region. I think that just takes too long. All right. So give me your 2 finalists in the Naismith quadrant.
So
anybody who wants to play along, I think we're going to post ours.
Yeah, we'll post ours. I got pictures.
You can find it naia.org. Is where you can find brackets. It looks just like the NCAA brackets because it's 64 teams. First time the NAIA is doing that. So I thought it would be a lot of fun. Fill out your brackets, post them on along with us.
Yeah,
let's have some fun with it.
I'll post. I'll get pictures of Randy's yours tonight, and we'll post them on there and get them posted out probably tomorrow or Thursday. We'll see. If I got to look in the Naismith quadrant, you look there, and there's 2 big teams that jump out. First of all, Carroll being one of them. I think they make it to the quarterfinals. And then the other one is Southeastern. I think those 2 are probably the two most dominant out of the entire bracket. And you and I haven't followed a lot of the NAIA ones, so it's going to be interesting. But I think those two are the ones that come out of there.
That's fine. It's exact same two teams that I have, Southeastern and Carroll. Southeastern is a 1 seed in the Naismith quadrant. Carroll is a 3 seed. Carroll having to go all the way down to New Orleans, even though they are the 3 seed. Loyola will be hosting down there at the 6 seed. So that could be a little difficult for them. But from everything that I was looking, because again, we don't cover a lot of these teams or watch a lot of these teams, just looking at some of the stats, that's where I win as well. How about the Kramer quadrant? Who are your two teams out of there?
I went the 1 and 2 again. Campbell, just looking at records and their winning percentage, also in that, and the Masters. The Masters is a program that's getting bigger, and you're hearing a lot more of them, especially in the baseball side, and they've kind of made a name for themselves out of there. So that's where I went. I went Campbell and the Master.
So we got one the same here, and that is the Masters. I did also have the 2 seed getting it to the Elite 8 or the round of 8 or however you want to put it. But I'm going to go with Sterling as my other pick. They are the 4 seed out of Kansas in that quadrant. I forget even why I picked them. I'm trying. Oh, yeah. How about 83.7 points a game?
I put that was my upset, so I don't even have Sterling make it.
Well, they are playing Eastern Oregon, which
I think
is out of the Cascade Conference, so I definitely understand that. But I have Sterling going into my Elite 8. So we have one difference so far. How about in the listed quadrant? So if you're not following along when you get there, it's the bottom right of your bracket. I was not prepared to put this online very well, so I apologize for that. But in the listed bracket, who do you have as your 2 teams?
Westmont, if you throw up and look at their numbers, it's just been fun, like ungodly numbers for that team this year. And the other one, I him-hawed back and forth about it, but give me Marion.
The 2 seed. So you're just going, you hemmed and hawed and just went straight up with.
Well, I wanted to pull the upset with Clark, because looking at some of the stuff that Clark could do, and I believe Clark is what are they? They're the 3 seed, and I almost pulled them through, but I was back and forth between that one, so I ended up doing Marion instead of Clark.
Boring.
I know.
That's funny. I have Clark getting knocked out. That's my big upset. It's the 14 seed Tabor taking them out. For me, Westmont, number 1 seed, I have them going into the Elite or the round of 8 or however you want to call it, quarterfinals. And how about the 7 seed Rio Grande? Number 1 team in the NAIA in scoring, 94.8 points a game. I have them making a run. They don't shoot a lot of threes like some of these other higher scoring teams. They're just really, really good at what they do, and that's putting the ball in the basket. So how about Rio Grande, 7 seed, making the quarterfinals?
It'll be interesting. Yeah, I mean, could be.
Why not?
But why not? Yeah,
we don't know. That's the fun. And then the final one is it Dwyer? Is that how you say it? The Dwyer bracket.
Dwyer quadrant. Yeah.
All right. What do you got?
Quadrants.
This is the bracket with LC in it.
This is the bracket with LC. I've got LC knocking off Rocky, and so moving on. So I've got LC and Thomas. I can't see what the word says. Thomas More. So, and Thomas More was the big favorite reading up on some of the stuff. So give me LC and Thomas out of that one.
I also have LC beating Rocky in the round of 16, but I have Thomas More going down. I have them losing to Indiana Tech. Indiana Tech, very good defensive team, top 5 in the country there. So I have Indiana Tech pulling the upset. Why? Because I'm having fun with my bracket. Robert over here with all the 1s and 2s.
Well, not all of them.
And I'm having fun. All right, give me your finals.
My final 4 or finals?
Just say your final 4 real quick, and then who wins.
My final 4 is Southeastern, Campbell, Thomas, and Marion. In my final game, it'll be Southeastern and Marion. Southeastern comes away with the win.
That's boring that we have the same champion. But my Final Four, Southeastern, Sterling, again, a 4 seed, Indiana Tech, a 5 seed, and Westmont. So I have 2 1 seeds and then a 4 and a 5. And I have Southeastern defeating Indiana Tech. So different Final Four, same champion. So Southeastern will lose to Xavier in the opening round. So I apologize to Southeastern for jinxing them. You are listening to the R&R Sports Report right here on KLCC 88.9 FM Lewiston. Also check us out on the R&R Sports Report on Facebook and YouTube, and that is where you can interact with us like a lot of people have today. Danny Howard, Paul Dazenbrock, the man who should be working right now, Sir Paul. Yeah. Haley's listening. Danny was listening earlier. So is Tatko. Nolette's been around. So if you want to interact with us, that is where you can. Oh, and Denise was. I hadn't scrolled up high enough to get to Denise. You made her mad and she left.
I know. She must have.
But definitely join them in the fun conversations. Let's go to the men's bracket.
Okay.
And again, I had some fun with mine. And I'm sure you went all 1 seeds.
No.
Mr. Chalk.
I do have Loyola going. Let's go. Let's start in that one. Let's start in the
Naismith bracket, top left of the men's bracket.
I actually have somebody different going in there besides Loyola. Give me College of Idaho. I think College of Idaho is going to take a little bit of a run. So I see them getting past Grace in the rounds of 16.
Yeah, it's funny. We both have. I have a big an upset in that one. I have the number 2 seed going down. 2 Lords.
Oh, yeah. I took Nazarene, but then Nazarene losing.
I hope Paul is multitasking by filling out some NAI brackets. But I also have Loyola and College of Idaho in my round or quarterfinals in the Naismith bracket. So we are the same there. How about the Kramer quadrant?
The Kramer quadrant, I have got, I have SF. So
St. Francis.
St. Francis pulling the upset and getting to the quarterfinals against Jess.
William Jessup?
Yep, William Jessup.
I have William Jessup losing in the first round. I have a lot of upsets.
This one I went a little bit different. So I have William Jessup making.
But it is funny with all these upsets. I also have St. Francis in the quarterfinals, but against Hope International.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. St. Francis and Hope International. Just so the play-by-play people have struggle with both of those names. All right. How about the listing quadrant, the bottom right of the bracket?
Give me Montana Tech. I don't know why, but I just figured Montana Tech will come out of the, I believe they're a 3 seed. And the other one is, I took the favorite. Give me Oklahoma Wesleyan.
Me too.
Just because of how well they look.
This one I did go chalk. I went Oklahoma Wesleyan and Thomas More. Thomas More defeating Montana Tech in the round of 16. But yeah, that's one of the few times I went 1 and 2. And then the LC bracket, the Dwyer quadrant. Where'd you go?
I hate doing this to us, but I've got us making it to the round of 16. But I have LC losing to Talladega. So Talladega will be one of mine coming out of there. The other one is the number 1 seed.
There you win 1-2.
Yeah.
William Penn.
For
me, I want them to prove us wrong. And Khalil Stevenson, you have full. I mean, he wants to be on the show anyways, but you have full reign to come on the show the weekend after and make fun of me for my pick. But I do have LC winning the first game against Jamestown, which I have to say, Jamestown is scary for one man. That's Mason Walters, who is second in the NA in scoring. He's averaging 24.5 points a game. He has 11.5 rebounds per game. LC can shut him down. We'll see what they can do. They played Morningside back on February 11th and beat them 103-95. So they can put up some points. Right. Can this Jamestown team? But I do have LC winning that one. I have them losing to Carroll. So old rivalry there.
I went with the rivalry, and I took us.
And it was difficult to put Carroll going forward. But I do have Carroll in the quarterfinals against Marion, the 4 seed out of Indiana. All right, give me your final 4, and you're all the way through.
All right, so Loyola and William Jessup also with Oklahoma Wesleyan and William Penn. I'm going to take William Penn winning over Loyola. So,
Yeah, we have the same loser in the championship game this time. My Final Four: Loyola, St. Francis, Oklahoma Wesleyan, and Marion.
you took St. Francis that far?
I have St. Francis before. It's a 4 seed.
Right.
I have 2 4 seeds, 2 1 seeds, and this one. And in the end, as 2 1 seeds, I have Oklahoma Wesleyan defeating Loyola in my championship. So we will be back with our brackets on our show next week, and just to see how red this is. It's going to be great to talk about how many we got wrong on this one, while then telling you to listen to us about our NCAA bracket that comes out on Sunday.
Yeah, that's going to be. It'll be interesting. It'll be crazy. I don't know how I'm going to get all that done too.
Very good done.
I know.
Not only that. So we have the NEIA bracket that just came out and will be completely destroyed by Saturday.
Right.
We have the NCAA brackets coming out. Are they both? Is both the men? The women's are on Monday, right?
Right, I think so.
So the men's reveal is Sunday. The women's are on Monday, and we'll have to have both of those done by Tuesday. And I'm starting the sports movie bracket on Eric's podcast over on the W2M network. We do our first show this Sunday. I still don't know which quadrant they want to start in. They might even just do the whole first round. We will see which way they want to go. I have built a beautiful bracket of, let's just say there's going to be words that cannot be said on this radio station directed at me several times throughout the podcast.
You got to make sure you let me know what time that's at.
I will.
I'm going to take. I'm taking my computer with me, and so I'll be out of town on Sunday.
I created some
Monday.
really, really interesting first round matchups. There is seedings. I will say I tried to seed them from the movies I thought were top to bottom, but I did make some liberties to make sure that a matchup happened that had a similarity.
Right.
So they had a connection together, and it's going to be great, especially when you have play-in games. Because I added 4 play-in games, and they're not all one in each quadrant. There was one that has 2 play-in games because there's one sport that, because it's we have a basketball quadrant, we have a football quadrant, a baseball quadrant, and then a miscellaneous quadrant. Right. There are some sports that have way better movies than others and really needed those play-in games. So give me yours real quick.
All right.
Give me your favorite football movie.
My favorite football movie?
Mm-hmm.
Boy. I would have to say Rudy because I've watched it so many times over and over. I think there's a couple of them, but I think that one's probably my favorite because I've watched it so much.
Rudy is in the bracket.
Yeah, and the other one, and Haley also says "Remember the Titans." That would be my other one.
Remember the Titans also in the bracket.
Those would be my 2 in the football side.
Shocking, I know.
Right.
How about the basketball?
I'm
looking at my bracket right now. It's a beautiful bracket.
Basketball. I would have to say Hoosiers. That's another one I actually own the movie. I watch it anytime it ever comes out on TV. I watch it. Denise gets mad at me. You have this movie. Why are you watching it?
Varsity Blues, also another good football movie.
No, I don't know.
Varsity Blues also on the bracket.
So
yeah, Hoosiers. Surprise.
Hoosiers is mine. I'm a Gene Hackman fan.
Surprise. Hoosiers is on my bracket. So far, you're just making my bracket look awesome. That I've nailed this bracket. How about baseball?
Wait a minute. How about what your
High School Musical? That one not on the bracket, thankfully. There's basketball in that thing. I don't know. I've never seen it. All right. What about baseball?
There's 2.
Mm-hmm.
And most of them always do. I would say The Natural is one, and then the other would probably have to be Tom Hanks and
League of Their Own.
League of Their Own.
So good. I created a matchup in the first round. I'll show it to you after the show because I don't want Eric to get it. I have not told these guys anything. There's been a couple times where they said a movie and I went, yes, it's on the bracket. Kind of what I'm doing with you.
Oh, Paul's like, what did I miss? We're talking about his draft that he's doing.
Yeah. So Paul Dazenbrock's listening on the Facebook page for those that are listening on the radio. For what you missed, Paul, is on a different podcast on Sunday night. I have a nickname on the W2M network because of my bracket ability. It's called Rancid Randy. I create great brackets.
He creates great content. Let's just put it that way.
Yes. We did one last year for the best game shows.
Right.
They started a game show podcast, and to help them out, I created the best game show bracket, and that's their first 7 episodes was going through my bracket. They didn't realize how evil I am until we did these shows, and they that's where I got the nickname Rancid Randy. They have invited me back to do it again. It is March Madness time. It's going to be a yearly thing, but this time it is sports movies, and that is what we're doing. And then the final quadrant, miscellaneous. So this is everything from golf to boxing, racing, soccer, Olympics, all of that stuff. What's your favorite?
Miscellaneous. If I had to throw miscellaneous out there, my wife would like this one because I say it. Let me say the character's name, and maybe you can get it. Cole Trickle.
That's Days of Thunder. Yeah. Also, it's on there.
All right, so I guess great minds do think alike. I think the Days of Thunder was.
So one thing I had problems with, and I did not make this a playing game. I almost did. Mighty Ducks or Mighty Ducks 2.
I'm not a huge.
Only one of them made the bracket.
I would say you would do the original Emilio Estevez and the original coming out.
Only one made the bracket, but I almost made that a play-in game, where it's Mighty Ducks versus Mighty Ducks 2. Right. But it's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting. Sometimes it's really difficult. Is Haley looking up the weirdest thing?
I think she's saying 2, as in the Mighty Ducks.
Oh, Mighty Ducks 2. But I don't know what this Hey Mickey thing is. Draft Day. That one is on the bracket. I've never seen that movie. I've seen lots of clips.
I've
not
seen
the movie.
Clips too.
I don't know what the bronze is.
Have you seen the new football?
That is not on there.
Have you seen the new football movie that's about Kurt Warner? Have you seen that one yet?
I have not seen that yet.
I think it's
not on the bracket.
I think it's on Disney Plus, and I could be wrong. I might have to steal my sister's account and watch it.
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Maybe we will link their show depending on the content that they create. And I know what Bring It On is.
I know she's been hanging out with my wife too much because she likes that show too.
Any Good Event Sunday is on the bracket, the program. It's not. I apologize. There's too many. Football was brutal.
What about
the 16? They want. Here's the funny thing. They wanted me to do a 32 movie bracket. I went, that's impossible.
Right.
I have to do 68, and even that was really hard in some spots.
How about Blue Chips?
I just closed it, but I do believe Blue Chips on the bracket.
Shaq.
Yeah, Shaq.
Hardaway.
Was Penny on there? Yeah,
it was on there. Nolte. I mean, that was a good movie
good
too.
Movies, man. There's so many. I mean, I want to double check real quick before we move on that it is on the bracket because I just closed it.
It better be on the bracket. Is what you're saying. So
I may have to change things.
Reshifting, reordering.
Oh wait, hold on.
Haley, I'm not even going to put that out there. I don't even know what that one is.
I didn't realize that it was cut off. My bracket had been cut off. Blue Chips is on the bracket. All right, let's get back. Oop, I just closed my notes. I've closed everything. I've lost my ability. Let's get into the NFL. Because news happened.
No.
Let's start with the big news. Franchise tags came out today.
They did. Is that where we're going to start?
Yeah,
franchise tag?
That's the big news.
Okay.
Let me pull up the list.
I already had.
I got it.
I put them in there.
Give me the list.
I put them in there. List? So there was only a few franchise tags that came across that I saw on NFL Network. A few of them, Kansas City franchise tags, Orlando Brown, the offensive lineman, once Baltimore Raven. Also, Jacksonville does the same thing with Cam Robinson. A couple of receivers making that list for the Buccaneers, Chris Godwin. Mm-hmm. And also the big name there, and we knew it probably was going to happen, was Green Bay's Devontae Adams. So both of those franchised for $18.4 million. And then the tight end, David Njoku. So
there was a lot of tight ends. Njoku was
Schultz was one. I didn't put Schultz.
And Mike Gesicki from Miami.
Gesicki, yeah. So
3 tight ends were franchise tagged pretty early on. One that was not franchise tagged that has me excited as a Jets fan to just throw the money at this man. J.C. Jackson.
Right.
Cornerback,
right.
New England. I don't care. if he wants Aaron Rodgers money, pay that man his money. Cornerback was a big issue for the Jets. Jets have obviously several needs. Let's not sugarcoat things. They have a lot of draft picks that can fix things. A shutdown corner, Darrelle Revis, anybody? What he did for the Jets about 15 years ago is what J.C. Jackson could be.
Right.
Pay or give him whatever. You get him with Robert Saleh and his defensive schemes. You get Carl Lawson back because remember the Jets signed him last year and then he was out for the year. C.J. Mosley. That defense has some pieces.
I was to say, would you prefer going corner or let me rephrase that? Would you prefer going defensive back over going an edge or going
I think
linebacker?
With edge or linebacker, Jets are good at edge. I think they might need some help just for like extra help. But if Carl Lawson's healthy, Shaq Lawson comes back, those are two pretty good edges. And we can do that. Mosley as a linebacker is good. We still need some more depth there. I think you have to have that top cornerback in free agency. I think edge and linebacker you can both get in the draft. Again, the Jets have 4 of the first 40 picks or so. So there's a lot of different things that they could fix. But I think a shutdown corner would be fantastic. Any other ones that really stood out to you as far as not getting franchise tag?
No, really not. I was one I was curious about, and maybe it's just because of injuries, but the Honey Badger. I thought that was a good fit with him in Arizona, but maybe I'm hearing things a little bit. I don't think it's the best relationship there anymore, and so I was shocked that he's not there. But there's a lot of names on the list.
He's not even in Arizona. He's Kansas City.
Oh, that's right. I'm thinking you're
and Kansas City used their franchise tag.
But you look at the list of some of the names that stood out. Von Miller's on that list. Some names that aren't on there. Calais Campbell. I'm surprised that Baltimore didn't try to give him and seal things up right away. Quadri Diggs is on that list. Mm-hmm. Melvin Gordon is on that list of people that didn't get signed yet. But, all this gets shook up on next Wednesday, so it'll be interesting.
Free agency's coming quick, and I'm ready for it. Let's get it going. The NFL cap went up, $25 million?
Yeah.
So that's going to play a big role in it. I want to say there was 9 teams that have over $30 million in cap space right now, and that's before all the teams start finagling and cutting people and opening up the cap space. So there's going to be a lot of money to be thrown around. And there's no really ridiculously top name people. There's a lot of role players. So it's going to be very, very interesting. Let's do the first big news that did go down. As Aaron Rodgers has said he's going to re-sign or an extension with the Packers. Money got thrown around. Reports are coming out 4 years, $200 million. Aaron Rodgers has come out and said nothing is set, but I have committed to staying with Green Bay, which is the main news.
Which is good. I mean, if they're mending that relationship, but I think he was also looking out for Devontae. Hopefully they can get a deal done with him and do the long-term thing. So
yeah, it's interesting to me when they did the 4-year, $200 million contract note that it was actually going to save the team money the way they were going to structure it. So now if it's even a little bit lower, I do think it is Aaron Rodgers trying to look out for Adams.
Right.
But Green Bay was already under the cap or over the cap, I guess you should say.
Yep.
So they have to make some cutting now with the signing of Rodgers. If you come out with a deal with Adams, it's going to be even more cuts that are going to have to go down. I know they just re-signed him last year, but they were really leaning on A.J. Dillon. Is Aaron Jones going to get cut?
Their money situation is going to be quite ugly, even though if they restructure everything for Rodgers, they'll open up some space, which they said there's no way that they can afford all of them. Somebody's going to be leaving.
Yeah, Haley says hopefully we can afford some defensive players. You need to afford an offensive line.
Yes, that's what you need first.
The other not as big of news, but are you surprised Carolina has said that they are not shopping Christian McCaffrey, but they are very open to hearing offers?
I had not heard that one yet, so that one's news to me.
They, from one of the reports that I read today, they are open for a first-round pick and a lower cap hit player for Christian McCaffrey.
And I watched him play when he came up to WSU, and Jimmy and I went up to the Stanford game a few years ago when it was on Halloween.
Mhm.
And I remember Jimmy and I watching, and he broke one out, and I think he broke it for like a 35-yard rush. And I looked at Maydall and I said, listen, that kid's going to be good. But now, over the last few years, injuries has been quite hard on him. So I'm wondering if it's something that maybe he's pushing to hey, shop me around, because right now it's him. He's the main guy there. It would be so nice to have, if he had a little bit of that pressure off of him and have, a quarterback and a decent receiver, so it's not just him all the time.
How much of a contender do you have to be right now to offer a first-round pick for Christian McCaffrey?
I think you've got to be, I think, easily one of the top, 6 in each division. I think so.
It's wider than that. I even think you're for a fringe playoff team, take it. I think Los Angeles proved if you are close to a Super Bowl, trade all of your draft picks. Go all in with the talent you have now. Trade away the draft picks to get people that can help you win now. Right. Win your championship. Figure it out later. Right? They're not going to remember. Right? Everyone makes fun of the Florida Marlins for the 2 times that they won the World Series and then tanked and sold everybody the next year. But down the road, you still have 2 World Series championships.
Exactly. I don't know. I mean, thinking about where he would fit in best just right now, what team would want him right away?
You want to know the sickest one? And I hate saying it because I hate agreeing with this guy. Kansas City. If Kansas City offered a first-round pick and whatever, you put Christian McCaffrey with CEH as that kind of a backfield.
Mm-hmm. I could see that.
So the load is lessened for McCaffrey. You make him kind of the passing down back that they tried to do with Bell, and obviously that just didn't work. But you have McCaffrey, Kelsey, Hill, Mahomes. I hate it.
Yeah.
But it is a fantastic fit, and I would give up everything. See the first rounder. I don't know, man.
I don't see Dallas doing that.
All right. Have we teased it enough?
No, Mike Williams. How about Mike Williams?
Yeah, that was a best deal in the entire AFC West today.
Yeah, maybe.
Biggest AFC West news. AFC West news. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, there's a ton of money happening there. So,
all right, let's get to it. Russell Wilson, it's gone. It's out of Seattle. It's great.
We talked about this months ago.
Yep.
Months ago. And now people are like, I guarantee you, and I put it in our notes when I was typing and I laughed. So let's talk about the deal first.
Okay.
So the deal right now is Denver gets Russ and a 4th-round pick.
Pointless 4th-round pick, yeah.
Pointless, right? So then Seattle gets, we'll start with the picks first. 2 first-round picks.
Yep.
2 second-round picks.
Yep.
A 5th-round pick.
Mm-hmm.
Shelby Harris.
Yeah, that's a good pick.
That is a very good pick. I like that. Noah Fant.
Could be okay.
Could be okay. And Drew Lock.
Sorry.
I'm like, what did you do?
But
no.
Seattle traded to get Jamal Adams and gave up the 10th pick overall because they suck so bad this year. Thank you, Seattle. And now have traded Russell Wilson to get the 9th pick. So they've technically traded Russell Wilson for Jamal Adams and moved up 1 spot in their draft order.
Right. Yeah. But here's the biggest question. Drew Lock, I know he's already put it on here. Drew Lock and Geno Smith are not the answers there.
That is the
Period.
greatest quarterback battle of all
Can you
time.
imagine if those two ended up there right now and that's who that's fighting? I didn't even write down the third stringer. I mean, who cares? Geno Smith proved it. He is not that guy.
No.
Drew Lock, not that guy.
No.
But Twitter blew up this afternoon. My Twitter did. I don't know if yours did too, because I kept getting these ding ding dings. I'm like, no way. I mean, I don't understand it, but I do. I mean, bring him back to the Northwest. I don't know.
Just say it. Just say it.
I don't
so
think
I
Minshew. I don't think Minshew Mania is the answer.
No, Gardner Minshew is not the answer.
No,
He went to Philadelphia, did not work. He got some playing time. He's not that good. Yes, did he kind of have this cult following in Jacksonville? Sure. Did they win? No, they did not win. Yes, he's beloved in Washington State at WSU.
Mm-hmm.
Seattle, the Seahawks, do not play in Pullman. They play at the home of the Huskies.
Right.
They don't want Minshew over there.
So with that being said, two big names are on the free agent sign list that'll happen next Wednesday.
Uh-huh.
I think that won't happen.
No.
I think there's two names on that list that I think are better, and I hate saying it, Bridgewater and Winston. I would put one of those two, but before I would bring Minshew back up here. And I know Paul's going to give me gruff about it, and then same with a couple of people.
But you also have the ninth
teachers
pick,
that I work with.
and you can take a rookie there.
But tell me how strong that class is. I don't think that class is very strong.
Do you care that the Pittsburgh's quarterback's hand's small?
No. I mean, my hand's small.
I think he has bigger hands than me. But
it's bad when people laugh trying to put their hands in my bowling ball. I mean,
it's like I don't care.
I don't care.
But no, the class is not that strong.
No, it's not. So I honestly think, and
there you go. Haley said they could have Love. You can trade for Jordan Love.
And that's a question. So I was going to ask you, with that being said, if he does get the 4-year deal, does the Packers move away from him?
Have to.
Do they start listening to offers?
I think if they do the 4-year deal, it's showing that we do not believe Love is actually the answer. Now we need a few more years to find the actual answer, and I would trade away Love. Hey, the Jets have that backup quarterback that played one game and everyone absolutely loved and thought Zach Wilson should be benched for.
Right.
You can go to Seattle. We'll give us that first round pick.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have to give up something, but I don't. Chris Carter's not the answer there as a running back either. They've got to make, or Chris Carson. They've got to make. Seattle is.
It does change the whole aspect of the top 10 and the draft order with what Seattle is going to do. It's going to be really fun come draft day when we get there. Again, we still have yet to fully decide yet if we're going to do a special opening first round of the draft. Though I will say, I don't know if you know this, and neither of them are listening because neither of them have spoken up yet, at least. But did you know that we have been gimmick infringed upon? So you know the kickoff.
Right.
I used to be on the kickoff, and then life got busy, and other things have happened in other people's lives. So the kickoff went away late into the football season. Harry and Eric have decided to come up with their own sports podcast,
right?
Which is just them talking about random sports. A lot of cricket talk in that first episode. But it is called the Broadhurst and Watkins Sports Report. They have gimmick infringed upon us.
I haven't seen either one of them.
So maybe we need to do a dual sports report first round draft coverage with those two, and we will see what happens. But I'm very, very, obviously as a Jets fan and having two of the top 10 picks, it's very intriguing. But there's a lot of moving parts still.
Right, and that's the thing. I mean, but do you think Denver gave away too much?
No. Because again, what I just said with the Rams, Denver feels like they're one piece away. That one piece was the most important piece, and that's Russell Wilson. Unfortunately, they're in a very, very difficult division, and they're in the more difficult conference right now.
That just means that
But
Vegas has got to play Wilson twice now.
I don't think they care. But they're going all in. They feel like they have the structure of the team together. They just needed that top tier quarterback. Now they have the top tier quarterback. Who cares about the 5 draft picks you gave away? Noah Fant, yes, you're going to miss Noah Fant, but there's a great tight end draft class this year, so you can replace him. Defensive player, yes, that sucks too. You needed a quarterback.
Right.
You were not going to win with Drew Lock.
33-year-old missed about a third to a half of the season.
That's the first time he's ever missed it.
Right, and so I think,
And he now has a better offensive line.
This is exactly where I was going to go. I think he's got a way better offensive line. But the other teams that I heard today, and when I was writing notes during lunch, and I went back into one of my classes, one of the students told me that he had heard Jacksonville, that Russell would have thought about going to Jacksonville.
Why would they have Trevor Lawrence.
I mean, that's what I said, this was my point to him. I said,
how did Trevor Lawrence go from the next coming of Jesus to we can get rid of him? Obviously, Jacksonville's not thinking that way, but let a rookie have a bad year, people. It's okay. He had no pieces around him. We should call Matt Flynn. That's fantastic.
I don't know. Haley just sent me a picture, and it's a meme already, and it's Roughless in Seattle. I sent you the one from Fox already. What they're doing with the whole Castaway.
That wasn't them. It was Seattle Seahawks. It was the Seattle Seahawks Twitter that first posted it. Well, at least the first one that I saw.
Yeah,
it was Seattle Seahawks Twitter. But now I gotta ask you something.
Okay.
Who's the second best quarterback in the NFC right now?
In the NFC.
Yeah. With Russell gone and Tom Brady gone and Drew Brees gone, who's the second? I mean, Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback in the NFC now. Who's the second best quarterback in the NFC?
Doc.
Is it Matthew Stafford?
No. Well, I after his performance of never making the playoffs and then running away with it and winning every one of his playoff games this year, I mean, you could say it. Could you say Dak? I don't think so.
What does he want?
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, you look at some of the names that are there now. NFC, Jalen Hurts. No.
Matthew Stafford.
Daniel Jones. No.
Kyler Murray.
Top 5.
He's top 3. There's no one else.
I'm just trying to think who else is in there. That's why I'm giving a little bit of space for me to wiggle around.
Kirk Cousins.
How much longer is Kirk? Where do you think Minnesota goes? Do you think they go quarterback this year in a week? It's going to be interesting. Well, who knows?
Here you go. Here's your list. NFC quarterbacks, alphabetical order from teams, right? Kyler Murray, Matt Ryan, Sam Darnold, Justin Herbert. They have Andy Dalton on here, but it's Justin Herbert. Dak Prescott, Jared Goff, Aaron Rodgers, Matthew Stafford, Kirk Cousins, Taysom Hill is still the thing. Daniel Jones. Who is it in Philadelphia? Hurts? Yeah, they have Minshew on here. Jimmy Garoppolo still technically. Geno Smith. Whoever they have in Tampa Bay. And Taylor Heineke.
So put it this way. The person that I would love to watch and I think would be intriguing to watch has to be Herbert. Has to be.
That's AFC. Herbert's AFC. He's a Charger.
You just read him off.
I didn't.
Yeah, you did.
No.
Yeah. Promise you did.
I said Heineke. I said Stafford. I said Mac Jones.
Mac Jones. I don't know.
That's not Mac Jones. I didn't say Mac Jones. I just said Mac Jones this time. Taysom Hill. There's nothing. Absolutely nothing. Is Aaron Rodgers in junk?
Could be. I think it probably will be.
Right now, somebody needs to make a GIF. I'm not good at these I'm not good at making GIFs. Somebody needs to make a GIF of Aaron Rodgers standing over the little kids like Billy Madison. Adam Sandler holding the dodgeball. and just all the other little kids and put the other quarterbacks' faces on them running around while he just pelts them with dodgeballs. That's the NFC right now.
There you go. I watched somebody do one the other day. Maybe I'll have to ask them to kind of fiddle with that. So it'll be interesting.
And then the poor AFC. Like, I'm so excited to see what Zach Wilson's like. He could be very good and still be the 8th best quarterback in the AFC. Mahomes, Herbert, Wilson, Carr. That's a ridiculous top 4. Or that's the 4 in the AFC West.
Right. In just the West, yeah.
Not to mention Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, if you call him elite. Deshaun Watson still technically.
And then we didn't even talk about Deshaun Watson made the news today. Okay. I think what happened is
they saw all the other news.
That's exactly what I think
he's going to plead the 5th.
Yeah. Who cares? Who cares? I mean, it's the same idea. That's exactly what happened today.
All right. Let's finish off football with Calvin Ridley. How crazy is it? Calvin Ridley blew up everything yesterday, and now it's such old news now because of all the other NFL news. Calvin Ridley suspended for the 2022 season for gambling on the NFL while he was gone. Obviously, he was the player that took the mental break halfway through the season. We talked about it, so go get healthy.
He said he only spent like $1,500,
but he did bet on Atlanta.
Right.
He bet with Atlanta. He picked Atlanta in their pick, so he probably lost his bets. Is what I think. But your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm to the point with there's a lot more strenuous things, but why would you bet on your team, especially when you're gone? You're supposed to be taking a mental break, and that's not happening. So, they're going to slap him with a whole year, if not more. I don't know. It's going to be an interesting thing how it pans out.
The things I saw that drove me nuts was, so-and-so beat his wife and only got this. So-and-so did this they thought was more egregious. They got this.
Right.
Gambling on the NFL or on the sport that you play is just straight up absolutely no, because it brings in the whole integrity portion of the game, and the NFL doesn't want to deal with that. So I think it's the dumbest thing. And I think he deserves it. I do credit Calvin Ridley for not hiding it, saying, nope, they're wrong. He just went, listen, I did it. This is what I did. It was only this much. But he even said, well, I'm going to have another extra year, and I'm going to be back even healthier when I come back, if they allow him back. I don't even think he's really fighting it that much.
No, I don't think so either.
So credit to him for just going, you know what? I did it.
Right.
And we're going to move on from it. So
yeah, 100%. 100%. I think he knows he messed up, and so, but how many people are going to tie this back into? All right, what about P. Rose? What about Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire? I mean, I can see that.
Mark McGwire.
I see that same idea of making that
baseball.
No, but I mean, there's stuff, and you say the whole Ray Rice thing. That was the big thing years ago, and we Ray Rice has never been back. Same thing with the guys not getting into the Hall of Fame. I see that taking that same kind of turn here in the upcoming months. I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting how it all goes. Calvin Ridley will not make the Hall of Fame. That's for sure.
No. How about this one? I didn't see this one. Paul Dazabrook just tells us that Bobby Wagner also gets released. I did not see that either.
Hi, Seattle. Welcome to Crapsville again. Remember the 80s and the 90s? You're back.
This is where you need the same thing. Make that meme emoji with the guy from Waterboy. We suck again.
Yeah. 100%.
There you go. That's if you're multitasking, Paul. There you go. Go ahead and start making
somebody that does not suck again. And we did skip over it as we've been bouncing around our notes, but I have to bring it up. Clayton Van Dyke,
friend of the show.
Has been on twice.
Dude,
national champion. Wins the NAIA Indoor Track and Field National Championships in the 800 meter. Absolutely fantastic. Awesome. They posted the video. I think we put it up on their page. Led for most of that race. Mm-hmm. You could just see the emotions hit him afterwards. and how excited he was with it. He said right here in this show, on this chair last year,
Right.
and he did it online earlier this
Right.
year, about how he was going to win. It wasn't, I want to win or I'm going to do my best. I'm going to win.
Right.
And he did.
Yeah.
One of the most confident people, not cocky, confident people that I've ever met. And full credit, he puts the work in,
Mm-hmm.
and he absolutely gets it done. 1 minute, 50 seconds, 0.89 is the fourth Warrior to win a national title at an indoor nationals event. It's the first time any LC Warrior has ever won an 800-meter indoor or outdoor.
Yeah, and the coolest part is you were doing radio when Alicia come running up, and we talked about it Saturday. And we had a good crowd here at Harris Field, and I announced that. Man, it got loud at the field there for once a Warrior, always a Warrior. But that kid, everybody loves that kid around here too. And to see the other sports athletes that were here, as there was some volleyball folks here and basketball folks there, it just, we've talked about it so many times this year. The Warrior Athletics has made a name for themselves, and this kid, put him right at the top of the list. I mean, you got to put him in the same breath as Sam Atkin. I mean, you have to.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Also, Cole Olson, another friend of the show, he earned an All-American status with an 8th place finish in the 3,000 meters. He led for a bit in that one as well. Finished with a time of 8 minutes, 28 seconds, or 8 minutes, 28 seconds is the best way to say it.
All-American.
Tennis will be playing men's tennis will be playing Pacific Lutheran at Walla Walla on Friday, and will host Puget Sound right here at the LCSC Tennis Center on Sunday. Don't forget baseball down in College of Idaho,
Nampa,
March 11th through the 13th. And then, of course, basketball this weekend, Friday's games. What is it? I can't remember what time they are now. Is it 4:30 and 6?
4:30 for the
men
in Helena, and then the girls play at 6 o'clock in Plainsville.
And then, of course, Lewiston Clarkson, first baseball game of the year over here at Harris Field at noon. I will have the call on the River 105.1. I don't know if I'm going to have a student with me or not. I'm not talking to Lee about the process that we're going to do for baseball.
I'll just holler. I'll just holler at you from across the way.
Yeah,
I'm doing scoreboards. So
I'm sure you will.
Yep.
What else have we got? I don't even know where we're at anymore.
Boy, let's see.
Hey, Dick Vitale.
Yes, cancer free. Let's talk a little Ncaa basketball for a second.
Yes,
because there's been some things right now in the game happening in the WAC or the WCC. At one point, Gonzaga was only up by 2. They've got 2:48 left to go, and they're up right now by 12, 73-61.
Hey, congratulations to Gonzaga women winning the WCC earlier today and locking in their spot. They were a bit of a bubble team. That kind of hurts Washington State, who lost in their opening round game. Last time I saw, they were still one of the last 4 bye teams where they didn't have to play in the opening round. But Gonzaga was below them, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there Monday.
So with that happening, Gonzaga winning, so they're a half game back as of yesterday against BYU, and then coming away with a win. I think that just solidifies that they could be one of those dominant teams. I don't see them being anything. I don't see them being anything lower than like a 7. I think a 7.
No, they're going to be like a 10,
so?
11, 12.
I think 7.
They were a bubble team coming into this.
Yeah, I think 7 or 8. But it'll be hard to prove. But how about this one? And this is the one that shocked me when I was typing it yesterday. Is South Carolina is the team to beat right now.
Okay.
Is the team.
Down.
They lose in the SEC title game to Kentucky, 64-62. It was close. And they only get 17 of the votes.
Okay. What have you done for us lately?
Yeah, I mean, you lost twice this year. One in the SEC title game to go from having 30 votes, pretty much the entire year, almost 30 votes, every one of the votes. And then that's the thing. All right, AP top 25. Do they matter anymore?
No, they never did. In basketball, absolutely not. They mean jack squat. Period. It's all about the tournament and getting there. And speaking of the tournament, we did talk about Gonzaga men playing right now.
Right.
They're in the tournament, most likely number 1 seed, win or lose. Women locked in their spot. Also looking at the Idaho women playing in the quarterfinals right now in the Big Sky, taking on Southern Utah. They're at halftime. Vandals leading that one 33-32. Vandals obviously you have to win the tournament. There's only going to be one Big Sky team. And for Idaho, 13-17 on the year. The only way you're ever going to sniff the tournament is to win the whole thing. Off to a good start there. Gandy with 15 points already in that game. And then the men's Idaho team plays their first round of the Big Sky tomorrow. Again, 9-21 on the year. You got to go on a crazy run.
Right, exactly, 100%. But I think for the ladies' side, they have found kind of a new groove over the last couple of weeks. They started off very cold, and I could easily see them sneaking in through this team and knocking off a couple of these guys.
How about the third straight very entertaining NASCAR race?
I didn't get to watch
Las Vegas.
Any of it. I did see they had snow on Saturday.
I did not see that.
I had a friend of mine that was down there, and I won't mention his name or anything, but he was down there, and he took pictures of snow on Saturday.
Kyle Busch was leading most of the way late. It was a great back and forth with him and Martin Truex, where Truex. What I love about this next gen car is you can play all these different or drive all these different lines and make things work. And there's a lot of strategy involved now. It's not, I got behind a car, I can't do anything. They had a great 20 lap battle coming down to the end. Kyle Busch finally started to pull away a little bit. Caution does come out, and then craziness of NASCAR. You have 2 laps, anything can happen. Alex Bowman sneaks out with the win after Kyle Busch gets wrecked. And with all the craziness that happens with all that stuff, but Bowman sneaking out the victory. But I have to say, 3 races with this next gen car, all 3 have been very, very entertaining. We will see what happens at Phoenix on this Sunday.
Yeah, it'll be quite interesting. How about did you watch? I wore my bowling shirt tonight. One of my bowling shirts. Did you watch the PBA?
I watched the finals.
Roth Holman doubles championship.
I watched the finals.
It was total domination. Those two, it was just nuts. EJ Tackett hits 16 of his 24 shots were strikes. Marshall Kent from Yakima. I've been working. We have a mutual friend, so I've been trying to work our mutual friend, try to get Marshall on.
He's very busy right now.
He's a very busy man right now.
Tournament champions going on right
now. He also struck 13,
the World Series of Bowling.
13 of 20. But this is their 5th time appearance making this, and so they finally qualified something less than second. So that was their motivation to win it, which they did. They came out. They beat Tom Smallwood, Jason Sterner, 247-173. Wasn't even a game. Match 2 was probably the best game that I watched. Kent and Tackett had 10 strikes in that game. They knock off Sean Rash and Matt Ogle, who have won that tournament before.
Poor Sean Rash.
Yes. So also match 3, again, not much of a knockoff there. Buttriff and his partner Palermo lose 225-187, but then that last one,
good old Oscar.
Yeah, Sean Maldonado, who I think has changed his game to the better. I think Sean Maldonado wins another tournament this year. I think he's making strides, but those boys were just so dominant. So just hats off to them. Kent now with 5 PBA titles, and EJ Tackett with 15.
Hey, sir.
Yeah.
Guess what happens a week from tomorrow?
Let's see. Tuesday, Wednesday, free agency. Oh yeah.
Aussie rules football.
I already figured I'm going to be wearing my shirt, and
we got to get together and get this streaming service paid for and set up so we can get all these games. Melbourne and Western Wednesday at 1:10 a.m. Pacific time. So it'll be one later on for our teams. Friday at 8 p.m. Good time for you, Geelong and Essendon.
I don't know, because that one. Here's the thing: I'm still trying to figure out if I'm going to Spokane that day.
But still, it's
It's a game time.
Hawthorne, North Melbourne, the Hawks, and do you remember the nickname for North Melbourne?
No.
The Roos. Kangaroos.
The Roos.
Harry Broadhurst team. First week, Saturday, 7:10 p.m. That'd be perfect.
Yeah, that'll be a good one for you. I'm still debating because the 18th is important for us. As friend of the show, Brian McElroy will be fighting up at Northern Quest. So I'm debating whether or not to go up and watch. But by the time he probably fights, it's probably going to be like 10 o'clock. They start at 7, but it could be done by that time. I don't know if I want to drive back home and then to turn around the next week and have to drive to Mountain Home. So still haven't decided what I'm going to do here yet.
All right. This week in sports history.
This week in sports history, we got lots of things to talk about. 1938, the American Bowling Congress, our old affiliation to the bowling world for us novice bowlers, had the largest tournament of 24,765 competitors. Let's see, 1971, Joe Frazier beats Muhammad Ali at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, not a college basketball player.
In 15 rounds to retain the title. 1972, Jack Nicklaus passes Arnie for all-time money winner. In 1991, Del Ballard Jr. throws the most famous gutter ball in PBA history and loses that tournament. And then 2005, President George W. Bush awards the Nationals' highest honor to Jackie Robinson's widow with that. A couple birthdays during this past week. Ben Roethlisberger celebrated his birthday on the 2nd. Happy birthday to him. Two for
sorry, radio listeners. I had to do it.
170, and then in 1972, Shaq was born.
Nice.
So Olympic gold medalist, champion, NBA champion, and I threw this one in there for you. In 1960, the birth of Lindell from Czechoslovakia. One of the big ones there.
All right, give me your trivia question. You said it was bowling, so I'm ready.
Well, both of them are bowling, so I'm going to do the easy one first.
Okay.
Del Ballard was bowling against who when he threw his gutter ball?
This could be me completely mixing things up in my head. That's Pete Weber, right?
It was Pete Weber. So Pete Weber strikes out, and he ends up 213. Del Ballard needs the first 2 and 7. Gets the first 2
and then the gutter.
And then he throws it in the gutter.
I just remember the look on Pete Weber's face afterwards, and I was pretty sure that's what was this moment. But again, I watched a lot of like bowling bloopers and stuff, and I was trying to make sure I did not mix them at all. But all right.
So the other one was it is also another bowling question.
Yeah.
And so, and we're gonna kick it this way. So I also said in 1938, American
sorry,
Bowling
she did throw some gutter balls today in our practice. They were not that famous. I apologize.
Yeah. That the largest tournament was 24,765 people. What is the highest amount of participants in the Open Championship, and when was it?
I don't know. 10 people. I don't know. I have no idea.
91,425 people. And that was set in 1995, the year the National Bowling Stadium opened in Reno, Nevada.
That's huge.
That is a huge place. If you ever have a chance to go there, go there. Nationals was supposed to have been there this last year, canceled, and it comes back there this next year. So, yeah, Reno, road trip.
Yep, Vegas this year. I think it was Reno next year, or is
Reno's
it New Orleans in between?
No, Reno's next year and then New Orleans.
So I'm definitely hoping to be able to do that as well. Very excited to finally see this Vegas complex. I've not been to South Point.
Yep. They have a horse arena there too. You can walk in the horse arena.
Giant place.
Oh, it's huge.
All right, that is going to do it for this show. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. Haley, Paul, Taco, Danner.
That dude right there.
Danner is absolutely fantastic. I was trying to scroll through. I don't know where Danner was in my head. Danny Howard, Danny Grubb, obviously Kevin Nolad, Denise, everyone. Thank you so much for hanging out. Thank you, extra special for Mr. Brian Danner, the voice of the LC Warriors, for coming on for over 30 minutes and telling us his stories. And dude's just an awesome guy.
Yep.
Very humble, very fantastic. Will be in the LC Hall of Fame.
Yes. And then we didn't even bring up, did you see his ring from the national championship?
Yeah, I'm jealous of that ring.
That's
pretty cool. Very well deserved. But thank you to him. Go watch all the sports. Come hang out with the Lewis Carson baseball game
First
Saturday at noon. Obviously, go try to find any streams. Go listen to Danner on 9:50 a.m. on Friday, Saturday, Sunday for the LC baseball team. Go find whatever streams you have to watch the Warrior men and women play in the basketball tournament. All sorts of stuff.
Yeah, you probably find those lcwarriors.com.
They'll probably find
be
a link somewhere. I doubt it's free.
No.
NAIA does nothing free. But we will find a way to watch it, and that is how it'll be. But for now, we've got through another show. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. We're getting close to 75, which is insane to me. 73 right now. So, but for now, that's Robert. I'm Randy, and we are out.